Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
The truth shall set you free.
You can't handle the truth.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
That's not how the Force works. Oh, really? You're cold?
I'm gonna make him an offer again.
I'd buy that for $1.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Hasta la vista, baby.
I don't have friends. I got family.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Hello and welcome to the Creative Control Podcast. I'm your host, Ken Akbala, and thank you for joining us for our first ever spoiler review episode. For our first review, we could not start anywhere other than Zack Snyder's Justice League, which was released on March 18th to 2021. So joining me for today's show from the Creative Control team, we have Neil, Sasha, Sal, and Andreas. How you doing, gentlemen?
Very good.
Very good.
Okay. Normally, beginning of the show, I kind of delve into a little bit of the history of this. If you're listening to this episode, you're probably going to be familiar with why there is a Zack Snyder Justice League cut. But if you're not, Justice League was released in 2017, and it took in about $658 million worldwide. Largely a big disappointment, the fact that this kind of size of franchise and the superheroes that were involved and even the actors. But the film had a lot of trouble in production. The director left quite near the end of the production in terms of principal filming because his daughter passed away. And but there was also lots to talk about studio involvement right off the bat following the critical feedback from Batman versus Superman, and the studios tried to get involved and wanted to lighten the tone, make it shorter, make it more sort of like MCU comparable. But after a huge online petition, some of it quite nasty, unfortunately, to a lot of individuals and people at Warner Brothers, but ultimately the fans demanded the Zack Snyder version of this movie got released. They gave him some money to do it. He's done it, and now we've got it. So we all had different opinions of whether we wanted this or not. It's something that I wanted to see. And from the first trailer that dropped, it did have me intrigued. And so I'll go around first and just see what your initial thoughts were of the Snyder Cut. Did you enjoy? Did you not? And kind of how did you watch it? It's a big chunk of movie. It's 4 hours, or just shy of 4 hours, 3 hours 50 or so. So I don't think we can start anywhere else but Neil.
Well, I mean, to say that I loved it would be like the understatement. It would be like I couldn't love this movie any more than I do.
Mm-hmm. You've always held the belief that if we got Zack Snyder's version, it would have been the Justice League movie that we wanted. And I know you've been saying that since that movie's been released, and even before, after when Joss came on board and stuff like that. So, so for you, it must be really pleasing to know that it lived up to the hype, right?
Yep. I mean, it's vindication.
Yeah. And did you watch it all in one go?
Yes, absolutely.
How many times have you watched it?
3 times so far.
I
watched it 3 times, and I've pre-ordered it on Blu-ray.
I haven't pre-ordered a movie in years, but I was very tempted with this one. But I know there's going to be a black and white version of this movie released. And I also want to know whether they're going to do a different aspect ratio depending on different versions of what they may release. But we'll come on to that part anyway. I think from there, we got to move to Sasha, because Sasha wasn't that keen. He didn't quite feel it was going to deliver, maybe, and he just wasn't. He wasn't that fussed about it. So Sasha, have you got something you need to say?
All right. Here's the thing: the whole DCU. Okay, I liked Man of Steel. Liked it. I didn't love it. I liked it. It's a movie that's grown on me the more I watch it. Though.
Yeah.
So you got to understand, when I saw BVS, I saw it in a double bill. I saw Man of Steel first, and in that showing of Man of Steel, that was probably the best time I've ever had watching it for BVS. And then I saw BVS, and that was a punch to the gut as of how shit that movie was for me. I was like, this movie's trash. And then I never saw it again until recently, lead up to this thing. I thought I'd give the Ultimate Edition a go. And I put up, look, it solved a lot of the issues I had with that thing, but Jesse Eisenberg's still a dickhead in it. Doomsday was wasted, and you know, even though it was like half an hour extra, the movie was just fucking boring. You know what I mean? It was just fucking boring. And then we get Justice League. Now, theatrical cut, okay. When your expectations are so low, I came out actually not hating it.
Yeah, we saw it together, and we came out thinking,
I didn't hate. Yeah, I didn't hate it because my expectations were below my feet. They were nowhere, and it didn't. Yeah, it was shit. But you know, there were moments in there, like when Flash sees Superman and stuff, which is stuff I've always wanted to see. I was like, wow, that was, you know, the movie was shit, but it had that. You know what I mean? But it had that, and like, you know, there was other things I liked about it, but you know, as a film, I knew going out, yeah, it was a shit film, but you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't disappointed, you know. So Snyder Cut and everyone going Snyder Cut, I was like, man, how good is it really going to be if BVS was the last film? And you know, I mean, I was just like, look, I'll watch it because I know it's going to be different. And two, you know, it's going to be like Superman 2. Not that Superman 2, the Donner's Cut, is a bad film. No, that's a fantastic movie. But I knew it was going to be a cut of a movie that was going to be very, very, very different to the theatrical version. So I was always going to see it and always going to be interested in seeing it. But did I think it'd be good? No, I thought it was going to be dog shit. Here's a pie, because I'm going to eat humble pie. I've got 4 of these bad boys, okay? So throughout this podcast, I'm going to eat humble pie. I came out of this movie thinking, holy shit. He fucking delivered. And some. And then it showed me that Neil was right. Because I remember having Neil on Zito's gang, and he was always like, Zack has a plan. I was like, fuck off, Zack has a plan. No one has a plan at Warner Brothers. Saying that, no one does have a plan at Warner Brothers, but Zack did. Zack had a plan. I saw this movie. I came out of it going, damn, Zack had a plan from day one. And not only that, I want to see Justice League 2, okay? I want all of that shit they prick teased me in that movie for, man. And I'm shocked. I've done a complete 1080. You got to understand, we've had podcasts where we've been talking about what to do with the DCEU, and I'm always like, reboot, fuck the shit, like end it. I'm done. You know what? Fuck that. I retract the statement.
That was our first episode, wasn't it? What to do with the DCEU?
Yeah, and I was like, scrap it. I was like, scrap it. You know what? No, put Zack in charge. Warner Brothers, stay out. Just let the cook serve the dish. You guys need to fuck off, yeah. And like, give me fucking the DCU under Zack Snyder. I'm in. You know what I mean? Okay, probably get better writers and stuff, but you know what I mean? Like I still think it's a case of too many cooks. Like, you know, because this movie more or less showed the problems he's had to deal with the higher ups at Warner Brothers, because this is the only time we're ever going to get an unfiltered director's vision, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, there's very few stipulations they made on this, and I'll come into those a little bit later. But yeah, pretty much he went away and did what he wanted to do. They said no reshoots, and the whole post-apocalyptic scene at the end of the movie in the epilogue, that was all new footage.
Yeah, that's right.
To do that, so you know, he did disregard a lot of what they said, but there were some things that he couldn't. So, and how many times have you watched it?
Well, I saw Snyder Cut literally the day it came out.
Yes, yeah.
And then I saw Josh Whedon one like a day or two afterwards. So yeah, but I'm gonna go watch it again. I
definitely need to give it another watch. Andreas, where to next? What are your thoughts? I mean, you're a huge comic book fan. I know you've struggled again with the DCEU in terms of what it's delivered and what it hasn't delivered. What did this movie do for you?
Okay, so basically I took the morning off work on the 18th. I subscribed to Now TV. I watched it with my son, who I've been watching comic book movies with since 2008. So he's like 17 now. We sat there, I woke him up early. He was hype. And Zack Snyder was always one of his favorite directors when he was young. As he's got older, he's kind of like, you know, branched out and he's become a bit more arty and film snobbish because he wants to be a director himself. But so it was like a return to youth for both of us. I didn't have expectations like Satcha. I enjoyed Man of Steel. It's grown on me immensely on rewatches. I watched it in the build up to this. Everyone knows Batman vs Superman. I followed the production for 4 years. I was so excited for that. I've never ever been as excited for a film as I have been for Batman vs Superman. One of the greatest trailers ever. So I was like, I saw it and I really was like, huh? It had some cool stuff. Like the opening was amazing. The fight between Batman and Superman was amazing. The warehouse scene is one of the best scenes ever. But just like story-wise, it was like, where's this? Where are these dumb threads? Where are they going? You're just shoving too much in, which I'm sure a lot of it weren't Zack's fault. Set up the Justice League, throw in the Doomsday thing. And my problem with Zack is he's got an over-reliance on making things look cool and disregarding, something to look cool and have the impact, there has to be the meaning behind it. Yeah. Joss Whedon's cut was terrible. I went to the cinema and I left there actually thinking it was all right. But I've tried to rewatch that film and I'm like, I couldn't get past 2 minutes of it. So I didn't have huge expectations, but I was so interested. Like I was really interested. I watched it and I was like, damn, Zack's won. He is won. Everything he's been through, the shit he's had to deal with, having his film taken from him, but in the end, to me, he delivered. Yeah, listen, there was, and you know what? There was things in there that didn't need to be in there. It didn't need to be 4 hours. But I just thought, you know what? He's just going out with a bang. He's thinking, I'm never going to get this opportunity again. If his cut came out in the cinema, it never would have been 4 hours, ever.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So
Agreed.
So he just thought, I may as well just throw it all in. And I'm going to film these extra scenes, even though they told me not to. And yeah, those scenes aren't going to go anywhere because it doesn't look like he's going to continue. It might change, you never know. But at the moment, I'm just saying, at the moment, he's saying he's done with it. Warner Brothers are saying we're done with that. But I don't care. Throw it all in. You had, you won. And then when I saw the credits come up and it dedicated to his daughter, me and my son were both really moved by it. We were happy for Zack, happy for fans like Neil, really happy for the fans. Like, I'm not talking about the toxic idiots because I've got no time for them whatsoever, but for fans, positive fans, I was so ecstatic for them. I actually said I think this could be Zack's magnum opus. I've liked many of his films, from 300 to his remake of Dawn of the Dead, but to me this was such an ambitious film. And snarky critics who maybe not into comic books, they sort of criticize Zack, but what they don't understand is who else would take a scene where Lois Lane is getting a coffee and make it so poetic, make it so visually artistic. He'll take a mundane scene and flip it in the most beautifully gorgeous way. And you got to respect someone like that. That's just like a painter, and the story made complete sense. The characters all got arcs. Yeah, there was exposition, clunky exposition, but have you seen WandaVision? That's got some clunkier exposition, really clunky. I know everyone's lost their minds over it, but I'm like, yeah, it was good, but are we just ignoring the clunky exposition? I'm talking outside of whatever the town was, those scenes. So yeah, these films have got clunky exposition. They've all got them. You just got to just part and parcel.
You got to ride with it. Exactly. You got
to ride with it. But you know what? It was emotional. It was beautiful. It was the same story as the Joss Whedon. It was the same story.
Pretty much.
How could it have been so different? It was so different.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I think what I've got most joy for is people like Neil.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fans, and for Zack,
and for Zack, definitely. It's a vindication, isn't it? Sal,
Hail King Zack.
Yeah.
Yes.
and Zack. Well, I sort of agree with bits and pieces of what everybody else said, so let me go over this. I've never been a big Zack Snyder fan. I mean, I like the zombie movie that he did. I mean, but I mean, when it comes to 300, the first time I watched it, I loved it. But I watched it again. I enjoyed the beginning of the film, but not the really ending because I kind of got bored. And when it comes to The Watchmen, I would have loved it if it wasn't for Sasha, who told me to read the fucking book first. Sorry about the swearing. So I read the book, loved the book, saw the movie, got irritated. And that's my issue. Because, for example, Superman is the only, out of all you guys, the only comic book that I've read since I was a kid was only Superman. And that's it. Never read Batman, never read anything. Superman was easy. I think it was for my parents was easy simply because it never had anything in it. You know, you just give a 2-year-old Superman a comic book, you know it's not going to have anything in it. So that's all I read, and that's the only comic book that is dear to me, and that is the reason why every time I've seen Man of Steel, it just still irritates me. And I don't like the last fighting part; it kind of bores me because he's just chucking people around, which irritated me in this film because he had really good fighting scenes for Superman, because he knew what to do with it, but he didn't do it in Man of Steel, but he did it in this fucking film, and. So I've never been a big fan. So when everybody was talking about it, looking forward to it, I was like, I didn't really care. I thought it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be as bad. But then when I watched the film, I had a couple of similar issues that I had before. That the story writing wasn't exactly there, and the dialogues were awful. But the film was good. That angered me throughout the whole fucking thing. Not because I was wrong. It's simply because I just realized it was a massive failure part of WB of what they did with Joss Whedon. That guy came in and must have wasted I don't know how much money he spent, right, to reshoot everything.
I mean, it
wasn't needed.
Tens of millions just to edit out Henry Cavill's mustache.
Now you guys tell me this because I only read one article. I'm not sure if it's true or not. That Zack Snyder claims that he only did 10 minutes worth of shooting. Like the reshoots that he's done only was 10 minutes out of the 4 hours.
There was the post-apocalyptic scene with Batman and Superman and
with the Joker, yes,
and
then the
Martian Manhunter,
Martian Manhunter. Those are the only 2 bits he filmed.
So
they had everything else in the can.
Exactly.
Special effects and
special effects. They said that
otherwise they had everything they needed.
No, I know that he how much other stuff how much effects he shot simply because I don't know you guys did this, but I did this. He tweeted out a link, a screen screener link, Zack Snyder, to join him and everybody to be part of the watch party to watch the film. I watched it that way. So I was watching with him and he was commenting on. So he said he shot about 2 or 20,000. I forget how much it was. It was number 2 effects for this film. Spent around 70 million on this film to redo the whole thing. But there weren't that many reshoots. He said the reason why he didn't want any more reshoots because there was a specific thing that we will talk about later. The reason why that was coming in. But what I found was that I actually liked the film. My issues were still there about the dialogue, about the story thing. But what I did find that, first of all, they must have wasted so much money first because they had everything there. And this wasn't one film. This is 3 films, by the way.
Go on, please continue.
Yeah, no, this is 3 films, by the way.
Yeah, they basically it was. Batman vs Superman came out, and then they were actually just starting production on Justice League. So because of the reception that BVS got, Warner Brothers started to panic because BVS didn't make the money that they thought it would. It's like, hang on, maybe we're not doing the right thing here. We maybe need to make it a little bit lighter, a little bit more humor. Maybe we don't split it out over 2-3 movies. Maybe we just need to have it as its own thing. And then if a sequel comes or how we do it, that's the way we do it. Whereas that was always over a couple of movies. And BVS is kind of part of the Justice League trilogy. So this was technically the second part of a 3 parts. So then there was going to be one more.
But this 4-hour film is almost like 3 movies as well. But I mean, we'll talk about how I find the format is. I liked it. I actually genuinely liked the film. with still a lot of issues. Not I love the film, but I really did like the film. And my issue, like halfway through, what I call, let's say about 2 hours in, I was laughing after getting angry was the fact that like they must have just hired in, and that guy probably got hired by Disney. They, you know what, just screw this film up, would you? Just do whatever you want. Just do whatever you can. Shut it up. Because I'm sitting there and thinking, it's like if he hasn't used any of the scenes he's used, that's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I put up an article on the group. I don't know if you guys read it, and I read that thing, and I realized exactly what had been done. There was a copy image of a particular set, what I call Avengers movie they were trying to do to bring that humor and all that shit in. And I just thought, but that has never worked for DC. DC is completely different. DC is every hero is almost like a god, not trying to be a hero. They're fucking it, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's start going into some. Let's start going into some specifics. So for me, I absolutely love the film. I thought it was. Really unexpected how much I enjoyed it. I thought I would enjoy it more than the other version because it's what the director wanted, but it was, it delivered on the characters, it delivered on their character arcs, their reasoning. It didn't feel like characters were just in place at certain scenes. And the fact that, you know, it was all his footage, he didn't use one cell of footage that Joss Whedon shot, you know, it's all his stuff. I thought it was fantastic. So let's start on a couple of things. The first thing I want to talk about is Steppenwolf. So what Steppenwolf is actually supposed to be the villain of Suicide Squad, but that was shifted. So what they did is when they were redoing the Justice League, they got rid of Darkseid and took the Steppenwolf character and made him the main villain for the Joss Whedon version of it. So that's why he's the only part of that movie. But you know, let's talk about the design first of all and the character motivation. So for me, infinitely better. I don't know if it was a timing issue, the first one, but how cartoonish that looked, how unexpressive it was. This just felt in your face, motivational, and you can understand why he was doing what he was doing. It wasn't just corny dialogue saying, I will destroy you, I will kill you, I'm going to take over this earth. There's reasoning behind it. He's trying to impress, you know, his boss in theory, you know, and he's trying to do these things to win approval. And, you know, at the end, you know, there's like sadness in his eyes in some scenes when things aren't going the way he wants them to go, you know. And I just thought it was such a better performance from that character. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, man. The Steppenwolf in the Joss Whedon cut and the Steppenwolf in the Snyder cut do you know what it's like? It's like seeing a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was like 6, and then seeing him when he wins, you know, Miss Universe.
Miss Universe, yeah.
Right? It's like, wait, you turned into this?
They're not supposed to be the same thing.
Right? It's just like, really, like, even when you look at it, like the physicality of it. And when we watched it, and it was like, yeah, it was a suit that can retract and come back. I was like,
manipulates the situation,
yeah, and it was just, he was a monster in the greatest sense.
Yeah, there was a lot more growling, wasn't it? Yeah. He was kind of aggressive and that kind of monstrous type, but he had that other part of him. What about the rest of you guys? What do you think?
I didn't even recognize him because I didn't rewatch the film. The other theoretical version, I didn't recognize him. I just kept on thinking, was this guy there? I can't remember if he was there. No, he wasn't there. And then I had to read it, and it's like, no, he was there.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I didn't recognize him. It's the graphics were done right. Not only that, you can't what I call say anything about Zack Snyder. The fact that he is brilliant at graphics. He is definitely brilliant at graphics. That's his key. That's what we all know him for. And yeah, it not only delivered, it was perfect.
Yeah. Andreas, Sasha, thoughts on Steppenwolf?
My thoughts were he had more time to show his motivations, and he was definitely looked better than the theatrical cut. His threat, he was more of a badass. He was more of a threat. Even that scene on Themyscira, the way that scene again was the same sort of scene, but it was so much more powerful. You know, the way he was flexing his muscles and the arrows will burst back out of his body. The way that it was more brutal. So I enjoyed all those things. You've got more of a sense than just him shouting out mother and stuff like that. Listen, I'm not gonna lie, he was no Thanos in terms of, you know, Thanos was a fully fledged character villain. It wasn't on that scale, neither him or Darkseid, which really isn't fair because Darkseid was just in the shadows in the background. So talking about him, yeah, he wasn't, I'm not gonna say he was like up in the great villains list,
he was more dynamic.
Yeah, he was definitely a lot better. And
there was more understanding why they needed Superman to help him, right? Because
you
know, in the first movie, you think, why can't you take this guy? You know, they created the threat much more in this movie that you felt like, we need some help.
We need Superman. And god damn that scene where he lands his axe on Superman. Yes, like it was just like crazy, you know. And that's the type of things that I love that Zack does. You know, when I talk about those cool moments when they've got that meaning behind them, and that was so earned. It was, generally miles better. Not gonna say he was the best villain. You know, he's up in the league of things like Thanos, but
and the subtle differences were in Joss Whedon's version. It's like Superman was humoring him more. He was kind of laughing and smiling while he was beating him. Where this one, it did show more aggression of Superman in terms of how he was fighting it. Like, I'm taking this serious. I know I can beat you, but this is still a serious situation.
Is it just me? I mean, tell me if it, but you know when he was pounding on him, Superman was that, and you guys have read more comics than me, was that a little bit out of character for Superman? I just felt like, Jesus Christ.
I think it's because of how powerful he is. He knew he could.
He's really...
To sum it up, there is, unfortunately, it happened to Darkseid and not Steppenwolf, but there was one moment where Superman was in a fight, and it was against Darkseid, where he started to just beat him up full force, and he, like, halfway through the fight, he's like, you know what, I'm forever having to hold back because I don't want to hurt someone, I don't want to go overboard and do this, but you can take it, so you can take it.
so
Sasha, what are your thoughts?
Could take it,
I agree with quite a lot of your points. For me, when I first saw the design, like in stills and stuff, I didn't really care for it. I was like, cool, whatever, you know what I mean? But what really got me was the fact they fleshed out his character a lot. They gave him more of a reason, or the audience more of a reason to be, oh, that's why he's here. And he wasn't just one-dimensional. Like you said, Ken, you know, he's seeking approval from Darkseid. And that, you know, that was cool. Obviously, he's not in the top 10 of movie villains of all times, or even comic book movie villains of all times. But what they did a hell of a lot better than the theatrical one was give him motivations, making him a fully fledged character, and all of that made him more of a foe to be reckoned with, and why they needed a league in the first place. Because Batman can't take him out by himself, you know what I mean? He needs some super people. And also, because of all the depth that they gave in the cut, it kind of made sense that Superman be the guy that, you know, to take him out, because obviously they're not going to invade Earth, well, you know, if they know there's a Kryptonian there, you know, which was kind of the point. But yeah.
And Steppenwolf had his own fear of Darkseid, you know, so, you know, his fear came from that rather than the heroes, you know. So, what about the Flash and Iris West scene? So that was obviously incorporated, Flash saving Iris West. She had like maybe one or two lines. It's not like she had a lot of lines in it, but it just demonstrated a little bit more of the Flash, his powers, and the kind of that scene. So what were you guys' thoughts on that?
But that's also another introductory scene, isn't it? So because the Flash movie didn't exist, or still doesn't exist, so introducing Flash.
Will it ever exist?
God knows. But that's the thing, and it's also showed what Flash is supposed to be. But that's the thing, if you think about it. No, I'll go about this at the end of this whole podcast, because I have a whole rant about marketing and actually project development. But that said, another director's scene, and it was a great scene. And I like the action sequence of him. There's a background music going on, him, you know, focused on her and going in and going out, and causing a mess, and being the only comic relief in the whole film.
Yeah, and it really showed more of his capability of actually how fast he is.
Yeah.
Which then leads more into when he's then, you know, in the situation with Superman later, and then obviously at the end of the movie, what he can do. What I thought was really interesting was the way he takes his shoes off. Because they wouldn't have been able to cope with the speed. I thought, you know, just little things like that was just very, very clever.
Yeah. Well, I have also another issue is that they go into the tunnels and the Flash just walking around with them. I mean, if it was the comics, the Flash would have already gone up, looked around, come back, told them what it was.
Any other
I had
thoughts
that
on the
issue,
Flash
but never
and
mind.
It was the way I'm looking at it in regards to the Snyder Cut is like every single character in the Snyder Cut who wasn't Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman was given you a clear, precise introduction to who they are, to the fact that to just everything about them. Now, granted, that is only Aquaman, Flash, and Cyborg, but it's okay. So you think of what Flash's introduction was in Whedon's cut. All he did was what? Draw on some redder's face. Right? He was just like, and he's drawn on a guy's face. He's a child, right? Versus, okay, so this is someone who, you know, we understand that he's going from job to job. He's basically doing every odd end job he can do, but he, with no real level, strong super level of understanding of what he's got, he's new to his powers, essentially. And that's a thread that runs through the whole film, is he's pretty new to his powers. He's like, you know, I've been testing it out, and like there's this thing that happened, and I got to keep this rule. But you look at the beginning, what is it? He basically almost like love at first sight. I'm sorry, look, there's romantic movies that don't get moments like the Flash saving Iris West, right? The whole with the music and like the only thing, and I was just like, please don't do nothing odd with it, was when he pulled the hot dog out of his pocket. The only moment I was like, please don't do something stupid with this, right? But the whole thing of like saving, and the fact that he was like so careful in his saving of her, because it was like he folded her arms across her chest and he laid her down gently and all of that, to the point that he was staring at her. And then when he kind of came out of Flash time and was in normal time, and like it was like the realization, yeah, she can now see you staring at her. He was like, shit, I gotta go back to the shop. You know, it was like, it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was nice. It was really nice. It was a nice addition.
Yeah.
And obviously we had some more with Aquaman as well. So we had a little bit more, again, understanding of where he is in terms of his relationship with his kingdom and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, not wanting to take the throne up and stuff like that. So you got a lot more exposition there, which was nice. And we got a hell of a lot more cyborg, you know, and Zack Snyder always said the cyborg was the sort of like the heart of his movie. Yeah. And it really demonstrated, you know, you got a lot more understanding of the relationship with his father, you know, and, you know, how he wasn't there for his big games. And then, you know, how close he was with his mom, the car accident, then his dad trying to save him, trying to give him the advice, a huge part of it. And it made Cyborg such a much more interesting character, someone you actually cared about and, you know, wanted to see develop through this movie. I thought, you know, he was pretty much the heart of the movie. He was brilliant.
For me, as Batman's my favorite character, and I whatever my thoughts were on Batman versus Superman, I still think Ben Affleck is the best Batman I've seen. Although, you know, I'm not a huge fan of the film, I loved him as Batman. To me, I was just surprised that I just came away out of that film thinking that Cyborg and Flash are the two that shone in Zack Snyder's Justice League. They were the two for me that really shone, especially those moments at the end between Cyborg doing what he was doing, and then that music when Flash was, you know, reversing time with speed. For, you know, that was just incredible. And I thought those two, they really shone. It kind of made me feel like, dude, you didn't need to introduce them in Justice League.
Yeah,
you could have just, you know, you could have omitted that. You know, those video files that came with their logos, you could have omitted that, because yeah, I thought those two outshone Wonder Woman, Superman, and they outshone the Trinity.
Yeah, and you got much more of a sense of Cyborg's power and his capabilities.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the way he chose to help people. You had that woman who was struggling, that her job's the rent, and he got his money and all that kind of stuff. So really, really beautiful stuff. So then we had more of like Lois Lane and pretty much the world mourning about Superman. And so obviously the other movie you had like the kids footage of Superman and stuff like that. And it pretty much goes straight in that Batman knows there's an invasion, there's parademons already around. But this, it sets it up a lot, a lot smoother. The world is mourning. Lois isn't working, and she gets a visit from what we believe to be Martha at the start, who turns out to be Martian Manhunter, which was always part of it. That was always filmed. Yeah, again, another really great scene between Lois and Martha. Unfortunately, I thought it took a little bit away from Martha's character and their relationship. The fact that it was Martian Manhunter, I would have preferred a different kind of reveal for him. So that was the only thing that kind of disappointed me about that scene. I don't know what you guys thought.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree with you straight off the bat. Like, it was a good scene between Martha and Lois. Not that I didn't want Martian Manhunter. I love Martian Manhunter, but you know what I mean? I do feel it did take away from the Martha Kent character by doing that. I would have been fine with Martian Manhunter just showing up when he did with Affleck, where you're just at the end, where it's just like, yeah, right, I've been watching you guys, I'm gonna join up or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that.
I thought it would have been great if Martian Manhunter would have been a great thing if he was the police officer, where she keeps on going every day to visit. Yeah. That's what I thought.
Do you remember? Do you know who played the police officer?
Yeah,
Jimmy from Superman.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, same actor.
Which Jimmy?
Yeah.
No way.
Jimmy from Superman 1 and 2.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Jimmy
Cyborg saved from the tank.
What? As in Marty McFly's brother?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the police officer. That was like a little nod to the original Superman movie. So they had Jimmy as the police officer, which was nice because it's like Jimmy watching over this Superman memorial. Thing. So I thought that was really nice. That was a nice touch. No, not a lot of people got that. I think you might have missed it in the first viewing, but I just recognized it. There's one scene in particular where there was a close up of his face. I think one Superman comes out and he goes to reach his gun, and it's a little bit more of a close up. I was like, oh, it is him, and I checked it. But the other thing about Lois, which was interesting in this movie, is that when she is in bed on a bedside table, you see a pregnancy kit.
Yeah.
Is pregnant with a baby. And the difference between this cut and the Joss cut is at the end when they're moving into the Kent farmhouse.
Yeah.
In Joss's version, she was carrying a box. In this one, she's carrying like a basket, a bassinet.
Yeah.
And that's why Affleck says at the end, congratulations.
Congratulations, by the way.
So she's pregnant. And that plays into something that's gonna we'll talk about a little bit later on. So yeah, that you understand a lot more of her reason for her mourning. Because of it wasn't just this guy she was dating, this guy she was in love with, she was having his kid, and it was a bigger thing. I think we probably didn't get enough time with Lois and Superman to really maybe believe their love, because at the end of Man of Steel they're just kind of working together, and then sort of like BVS they're in a relationship, they have a scene in the bathtub, maybe that's where she conceived, I don't know, but it was a really crammed in relationship, so it was a lot to take in, but
barely anything there. But
if I remember right, it's BVS is 18 months after Man of Steel.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the relationship is there, but they're not.
We haven't seen it.
We haven't seen it. We don't feel that connection as much as what we just understand it to be established. So, okay. So let's talk about this one because this was a big one. Cyborg Seeing into the Future. So actually there's a little bit before that. So when the Flash is going to touch the mother box to bring Superman back to life to give the charge, he actually reverses time slightly then. It gives a little bit of a hint of that. So the box drops and then it just comes back up slightly. He's using the speed force because he just kind of was timing it right. But then Cyborg sees into the future and we see this dystopian future, all these little cut scenes with Superman and stuff like that. So I'm going to kind of go into the spoilers here. So we see obviously that kind of shot over the Justice League headquarters. It's fully demolished. You got Superman flying over Red Eyes holding Batman's cape. He is pissed.
He just killed Kilowog.
Kilowog. You see Green Lantern, Kilowog sort of like lying there as well. And then you get this scene where Superman is cradling a corpse, which is Lois. So, and obviously it's not just Lois, it's going to be Lois with his unborn child. Now, so now, and that's in the Batcave. So what has happened is, what's supposed to happen in the next movie is that Darkseid is coming. Superman's like, you know, Batman, you can't take on this guy. I need to take hold of him. You look after Lois. That is your job. You need to protect Lois. Something happens which basically causes Lois to die. I don't know if it's going to be the Joker or whether it's you know, Darkseid or whatever himself, but Lois gets killed. Darkseid's there, and that's why Superman goes ballistics, because, you know, Batman's failed to protect the one thing he loves. So that's why he goes off rogue. You know, basically hunting them all down, which then feeds into the apocalyptic scene at the end of the movie. Yeah, what did you guys think of that kind of turn on Superman, Darkseid hand on the shoulder kind of thing, and just the way that kind of played out, and the fact he tries to stop it, saying, oh, wait. And because that's why it links back to obviously the Flash in BVS doing the time travel thing, saying Lois is the key, because you got to protect Lois. It isn't just about Lois being there to bring Superman back around. It's the fact that if Lois dies, the world is ending.
Yeah. I mean, without the follow-up films, it was cool to have, but I just felt unnecessary. All of that, the nightmare scenes, everything, because it's ultimately not going to probably lead to anywhere. But again, because I was fully invested in watching whatever Zack Snyder was going on in his head, I was taking it all in. But for a sort of general viewer, it may be a little bit confusing, you know, without knowing.
Totally. And I think that brings up like the question, you know, it's like, for me, this made me want another Justice League movie.
Yeah.
You know, all those scenes set up. So if you cut those apocalyptic scenes out in the M1, I wouldn't be wanting a follow-up as much, because I want to see how that plays out and how they go, and it'll be time travel, you know, and that's going to basically how they're going to correct it. We had Joker at the end talk about the fact that there's like this multiverse and multiple versions of what's happened. So it's like, how many times has Flash gone back? How many times have they tried to correct this mistake? And I thought that was really interesting, because obviously we did time travel in the MCU, but they had all these different versions that just happened and we only saw the one. This is like kind of seeing different versions of what has happened, which I thought was, you know, was really, really good. What about Darkseid himself, Darkseid and Desaad, their appearance in the movie?
Hey, look, don't forget about Granny Goodness now.
Enlighten me. That one I don't.
Don't forget about Granny Goodness is on the other side. So on the right side of Darkseid was Desaad, and on the left side was Granny Goodness. But the thing is, I mean, I love it. Like, I get what I mean. We said it in this review, or that, you know, Darkseid isn't Thanos. I feel the opposite. I feel like, if you think about it, right, in Snyder's cut, Steppenwolf was basically like a zealot. He was basically like he reminded me of, right? He reminded me of like a crusading soldier. Like, you look at them, the knights in the crusade, that is what Steppenwolf was. And the way he would just like fall on his knees and basically pray to Darkseid. And I'm like, look at this beast of a alien being, right? Who decimated Themyscira by himself with a couple parademons, right? Who went to Atlantis and chopped up all them soldiers, right? He's been doing all of this essentially by himself, or not by himself because he had the parademons, but he's been basically frontline.
He's been destroying worlds.
Yeah, he's been frontline handling business in every scene we've seen him. And he is like, I'm afraid of Darkseid. I'm worried about Darkseid, right? Now, if we kind of like flip it to its equivalent in the MCU, is Loki to Thanos in regards to the behavior.
Yeah.
And it's like, as a character, Loki is a better character, but as a presence, a force of like, yeah, you can't stop me.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
100%.
I'm like, it makes you just think to yourself, if Steppenwolf is big and as bad as he is, Steppenwolf is like Sagat in Street Fighter, right? You gotta beat him to get to M. Bison, and then when you get to M. Bison, you're gonna wish you took that L with Sagat.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what Darkseid was like. The Sun, and obviously, now that the films have come out, there's so many theories and so many other ways to look at it. But I'm like, the Sun was perfect because he was just there as like. In fact, he reminded me of another character in another Zack Snyder film of the E4s in 300. The way that they were just like, that's quite enough, Leonidas, and it was like, that's what he was like.
And you just don't get to speak to Darkseid unless you got some serious.
You know what I'm saying, right? You don't get to talk to upper management. You got to deal with the receptionist first.
Yeah, exactly. And but what we saw of Darkseid, not only obviously in the conversations he had with Steppenwolf and that, but it was in that future scene, the Cyborg stuff, where he's taken out Wonder Woman, he's taken out Arthur, Atlantis. He's killed all these people, all these superheroes, and that's kind of it. It's done. Where he uses the Omega Beam, underwater and just like kill those things around. There was so many nice little moments there, and it's like I want to see more of him. I want to see him fight the Justice League. I want to see how that happens. Him and Superman take each other on, because that'd be epic.
I think that is actually the proper Justice League film. You can think about it. Technically, Darkseid's a lot more sadistic than Thanos and everything, in every way, form, shape, and form. But I'm sorry that we won't be able to see that film. I don't know if anybody's going to do that and do it right. That's another thing.
Yeah.
But that said, that would have been a proper Justice League film, a film that's like the end of everything. Because even in this particular one, you heard that he's killed 20,000 worlds looking.
100,000. Yeah, he was like.
Yeah.
You know what's really messed up though?
What?
Is of just thinking about it now, just comparing the two in my head and thinking about it, right? Thanos is the GOAT, right? He is the villain of all villains, but he needed the Infinity Gauntlet to do it.
Yeah, Darkseid doesn't.
Darkseid is just like, look, don't let me blink at you wrong. You never come back.
Yeah, that scene where they've reverted back to obviously when Man last fought him, with the other. Atlantean stuff like that, that was a great scene, showing his power and stuff. But it also showed that the unity, when people come together, he is vulnerable as well, and he needs the what is the code that he's after?
The anti-life matter.
Anti-life matter, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Neil, can you elaborate a little bit more on what that is?
It's basically,
or even Sal as a Superman comic book fan.
The anti-life equation is essentially just a it is
like an antimatter.
It is an equation, but what it basically does is it gives you the ability to control the willpower, the mind of all living beings.
That's how he controls Superman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just sentient beings, right? So but you have to. I can't liken it to like a Jedi mind trick, but it's basically if you're weak-willed. You're controlled a lot easier.
Yeah, and that's why he needed the vulnerability of Superman with that death. That's how he's able to
is gone. Your willpower is
basically that's how he gets control of Superman, by killing the loved one and then taking him over, and then using him as his
weapon,
star weapon. At like not just a bodyguard, but a star weapon for everything. And there's a whole. It's not just a little bit. It's a whole. Of going from one kingdom to another, one world to another, killing everyone, using Superman for it. And then Superman turning, even when he becomes the good guy again, I'm not going to tell you how that happens, but it's the whole of Superman going around and apologizing and trying to, be good in people's eyes again. That's a whole another thing. I mean, I have a full rant here. The roundabout means that they try to flush this thing too quickly. And this... the reason I say this is a Justice League movie is because this is where everybody sort of dies and everybody sort of fights out of their wits trying to, to get rid of Darkseid and fail. And but the thing is, these bozos at WB did not do it well. They were, I think, too rushed to make an Avengers movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that this movie would have been 4 hours if everybody else had an introductory before. I mean, they could have just introduced Cyborg in this. By the way, why does Joe Martin always get hired to be the scientist and then get killed off in the movie?
Yeah.
What is that?
Even that, right?
From Terminator. I mean, seriously.
They said, I think it was when I first saw the image of him back in BVS,
Yeah.
right? And it was like,
oh, they're gonna kill this guy.
He's Silas Stone. It was immediately the memes came out, and it was like, this guy ain't never gonna be happy till he creates a functioning murder robot.
I mean, we saw a lot more of sort of like that. We saw a lot more of sort of like Star Labs as well.
Yeah.
Ryan Choi,
exactly. So we got some more of that. But what about that? Okay, let's talk about the Flash scene. The time travel. That was a beautiful shot. That was
I love that. I love that.
The music, the way his attitude, the way what you realized he had to do, like the panic, and then just it's like heal. It's like fuck the Russian family. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's just like, we've got to get the Russian family out of here. Got to go fast. No,
this is something that this is the actual. If you're going to pick an example of why, forget everything else. Why replace that scene with Flash having to push one pickup truck with the one family? Like, why?
And Superman's like carrying a building or something.
You know what? That's what made it worse, right? Is when you think about it, that was Flash's moment. You think, now, obviously, in my head, I'm like, Whedon was given mandates, right? I'm like, we're going to trash Whedon for his film, but at the end of the day, he was given mandates.
Yeah.
He did the company job. The point is that he was given a mandate. Now, I'm like, even if you're given a mandate, you can't be sitting there like, what have you got so far? They show you the Flash doing that, and then you're like, nah, you know what? He's going to have a moment.
I got something better.
He's going to have a mini moment that's going to be serviceable until he looks to his left or his right and sees Superman with a whole building just like, you're good.
It's bands, right? It's lighthearted, but I mean, it demonstrated his power. It demonstrates more about the multiverse and the different timelines, the possibilities, and it leads into the
Flashpoint.
That's the BVS scene in terms of where he does go back to speak to Affleck.
Yeah, but I think
Batman, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think the biggest thing for me is that with this cut to the theatrical one, Andreas and Solomon were right. Like if we had two build-up movies for Flash and Cyborg, this movie wouldn't be 4 hours long. It would be straight to the point. But the biggest thing for me with it being 4 hours long is that one, Batman has a plan. Before the end showdown, they're a team. It's like X-Men 1, where we're a team. This is the plan. That's the bad guy. We're going to go take him out. And everybody has to stick to the plan. And they all had their bits. They all had their role to play in that end finale, in that end showdown. And, the fact that they failed and Flash saves them because he realizes his true potential. How the fuck did they get from that to saving the Russian family? I mean, look, if I was Josh Whedon, I would have lied to Warner Brothers and say, I made up this shit.
I did that,
Yeah, and think how epic would this be? And then if they argued with me, I would have been like, yo, you see the $2 billion I made for Avengers 1 and 2?
Take my
I would have done that. I would have done that. I'd be like,
but that's the thing.
He changed the color scheme, right? When we look at it in the final fight, he changed the color scheme from like normal to red. 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 I'd have literally done that. I'd have just been like, change the color scheme a little bit, and then copy my homework. Just don't make it obvious. Sky would have been red. I'd have given them the old superhero music, and then just been like, go ahead. There you go.
Okay, I got a question. How much of the differences do you think it's Warner Brothers sort of like mandating interference, and how much do you think of it? Because when you're a director on that level of Whedon and Snyder, you have to have an ego. So how much of it would have been like just could have made that final decision. He could have kept that last Flash scene, but he thought, "No, you know what? I want my idea in there at the end." Like
when you're
think of
dealing
it.
with a over $200 million budget, it doesn't matter which director it is, unless they've got a lot of clout with the producers at the studio. You got to understand, Zack Snyder from day one, like Ken said, the minute BVS came out, they had 3 weeks. There were reports when BVS came out that they were making it, they were scrapping off part 2. They were going to make it a more they were going to do rewrites before they started shooting. But then when you look at this movie, you can clearly see what the problems was. Zack weren't having any of it. He was not rewriting that movie. He was sticking to the job that he was hired to do. Quite obviously they agreed to make a particular film, and quite frankly WB went back on their word there, fucking him off. And on top of that, he even said in an interview recently, the death of his daughter made it, basically it was hard to keep fighting with these studio execs when he's got, other stuff that's more important on his mind. You know what I mean? And I could understand that. At the same time, I do not blame Josh Whedon. All right, it's very easy to throw Josh Whedon under the bus, and I know maybe in the comments and stuff, I know that many people give a shit, but here's the thing. All right, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. Okay, if that happened, I could believe it. I could personally believe it probably did happen, all that stuff, but that's not the point of what I'm trying to say. The point I'm trying to say is Josh Whedon is hired because he's Josh Whedon of the Avengers. Warner Brothers' mandate is we want a 2-hour movie, so we can
2-hour superhero movie.
So we can have more butts and seats. Can you look at this 4-hour cut, condense scenes so that the movie flows a lot quicker? And is there anything we can shave off so that we can have a kind of movie in it? Hence why Josh Whedon himself puts the card, when his credit comes up, it's next to a sign that says "I tried." The guy knew that, and he doesn't get director's credit because it's mainly Snyder's footage. I think a lot of it in the theatrical cut was Warner Brothers completely.
100%.
But you've got to understand, Josh Whedon was hired to do what Josh Whedon does best: punch it up, make it funnier, give dialogue to these guys. You know what? Saying that though, not throwing the theatrical one completely off the bus. I did like some of the Josh Whedon lines.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. It's like, what did you miss from the previous cut in terms of what maybe Josh did that actually I quite liked that? I would have liked to seen it. So obviously there was the extra scene with Batman and the Parademon, but obviously, could they fit that in? Probably not.
Nah, probably wouldn't want it either.
You've got the shot. Obviously, you got all the stuff with the Russian family. You've got a lot more scenes actually with Batman and Wonder Woman in terms of their relationship and the way they're trying to put the team together. So there's a lot more of them. And then obviously you've got the scene on the plane where Aquaman's sitting on the lasso of truth.
Yeah, that needs to stay.
So of all those scenes, is there anything out of those you think, actually, I would have kind of liked to see that stay in?
One thing. There was one thing that I ever so slightly...
and the Batman theme tune from the original movies.
No, the one thing that I ever so slightly was like, I did kind of like that, was when they're discussing bringing Superman back, Flash likens it to Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
And then when Superman's back, he's like, Pet Sematary, right? That's it. That's the only thing that I'm like, okay, from version to version, I kind of with that, right?
Yeah, because it shows Flash's personality there, doesn't it?
Yeah, because it gives him a bit more of a personality.
Yeah.
I think the scene that I did actually enjoy was the Aquaman scene. I thought that was a light-hearted moment just before going into battle. It shows a little bit of unity between the team.
Yeah.
I did quite like that, and I thought that's something that could have stayed in because it would have fit. It wouldn't have lost anything from anything else. But
I agree.
otherwise there wasn't there wasn't really anything else.
So exactly.
I know
so,
that just to start there, I know Andreas needs to leave us for now. So Andreas, just want to give you a chance to have any final thoughts on the Snyder Cut.
My final thoughts on the Snyder Cut are, I was so pleasantly surprised. I was really happy, like I said, for Zack Snyder for everything he's been through. And happy for the fans, especially happy for Neil. I was thinking about him when I watched it. He was right. And to change people's minds, like Satcha and myself as well, to some degree, is really respect. And reviews that I've seen from people that didn't like his previous movies have really liked this movie. So to me, and the Rotten Tomato ratings are really high. And I agree with you that I have no sort of, I don't blame Joss Whedon for anything, because he had a mandate, he had a job to do. And I understand what you're saying, that he had to cut it down. But what I don't understand is some choices he made, like brunch jokes. Like cringy jokes, like Flash falling in Wonder Woman's breasts, those type of jokes. The decision with the Flash thing, I'm sorry, I don't care. You would have, don't tell me the executives at Warner Brothers thought, yeah, you're right, it's better. The pushing the one pickup truck, it's better than this awesome ass scene. Essentially, they could have taken Zack Snyder's job and got a cool editor to just.
But you got to wonder actually how much of the execs actually saw of Zack's cut before they brought Joss on. Did they really understand the full story? Did they actually see all the footage that had been shot? Or was it just a case of, look, Joss, you need to finish this now and get on with it? We'll never know the real answers. But anyway, thanks, Andreas.
No worries, guys. I've loved every minute of chatting about this. And you know what? I might go and watch it after I pick up my son.
I enjoy it.
Take care, guys.
Take care.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So just want to try to catch up on a couple of more scenes to talk about. So let's talk about that post-apocalyptic scene. We had Jared Leto back as Joker. Now, apparently there's extra footage of which they've shot with Jared Leto, which they might do as another version. So when they do the black and white version, they might be sticking some more Joker stuff in here. But what do we think about that? So we had Deathstroke there with his new hairdo. We had with a different accent. We had Flash there. We had Cyborg there. And then we have the interaction between Batman and Joker, where we find out that he did kill his Robin. He's killed. Harley Quinn died. And stuff like that. And there's a lot of animosity there, and it's just like the line that I loved is just like, and I will, and when I kill you, and make no fucking mistake, I will kill you. I was just like, oh man, that was brilliant. I absolutely love that. And I think it really added something to it, which was great. And the fact that we was like, who's coming? Is it Superman? Is it Darkseid? And Superman drops down. It was like, and it just showed us that, we talked about the multiverse and all those kind of things. So that's something that was new that was filmed. What do you guys think of all that part?
For me,
it was all great.
For me,
yeah, go on.
Okay, here's the thing. I've been looking at a lot of stuff online. I know a lot of people not really digging that scene because obviously it teased as a sequel we'll never see, or maybe we will see. Who knows? But like, for me personally, God damn, it was good. I mean, look. We finally got Affleck and Leto together on screen at the same time. To top it off, we got evil suits. You know the worst has happened and everything's in context now. You know what I mean? Whereas before, whenever we've had the future scenes, we haven't had the context. We were like, okay, how we know what's happened. We're like, oh shit. You know what I mean? And then this was their version. This was Zack Snyder's version of, how Marvel like to prick tease you? Well,
yeah.
Guess what I had in store? And you know what? For me,
more humble pie.
For me, it was just all I heard in my voice was Neil saying these words that my boy Chris would utter every time he was right about shit. I told you, bitch. I told you.
Sal, what did you think?
I liked it. I mean, I liked it a lot, but it bothered me again, and it was simply because I was like, "Oh, that's great, but we should see all of that happen." You know what I mean? I mean, even though it was, what Sasha said, it was a tease. and we know this is what he wanted to leave at the end of the film. I mean, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, maybe he decided to do it now. God knows. But that said, again, I just felt like the failure of the project development at WB, that they should have had all of this in plan, and rather than rushing it to the Avengers film, that is the Justice League film. I mean, I would have loved to seen that. I'd love to see.
What's so frustrating is they did have a plan for this, and like for instance, in the scene with Lex and Deathstroke, the fact that he tells him who Batman is and his secret identity, that was directly supposed to lead into Ben Affleck's solo Batman movie, which he was directing, and he was Deathstroke, so he would have found out who he was and come after him. And so, those things are all laid there, and obviously that's gone out the window, and that's not happening now. But all the seeds were being laid there. It was so well.
I understand it.
Neil, what did you think of the scene?
See, that's the thing, is I loved it, and even though I knew that that's the ending of Post-Apocalyptic Scene is that scene was added on at the end. I'm like, nah, you was right to add it on. You was right to add it on for. One, he's right to add it on because it was like it says to everyone involved, not everyone not involved. This is what you've been denied, right? This is what was taken from you by people motivated by who come and accept a vision, but are motivated by money and let that money overshadow a vision. Right, because here's the thing: when Zack stepped in and he was like, "Okay, so you want to give me Superman, all right? I got your Man of Steel," and they were like, "We want you to keep going," and it was like, "Okay, well, look, I got a lot planned. Can I do everything I got planned? Yeah. Do what you want." And he was like, "Okay." Because you think there are threads that literally go from Man of Steel all the way to Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? There are threads that go through. There are threads that come up in BVS that go all the way through. There are threads. These threads led off. There were 3 separate films got teased in this 4-hour movie. Flash's movie got teased by the fact of seeing him reverse time, right? So
Flashpoint.
It brings to the whole thing of Flashpoint. The end scene with, Deathstroke being told what, Batman's real identity is, right? That sets up the Batman movie, which, if I'm right, was supposed to be the very next movie, right? It was supposed to be the next one that goes into development would have been the Batman. And then it sets up what would be the next Justice League movie, right? Technically, the next 2 Justice League movies. And yet, they were like, nah. Sorry, we don't need that. So I'm like, no, Zack was right to make it, film it, and put it in there and say, this is what you were supposed to get. And I'm just going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that conversation between Batman and the Joker. And I'm wrecking my head about this. And because of the people we have here in front of me, it's perfect because I know I can get someone to tell me if it's different. Have we ever had a more poignant conversation between Bruce Wayne Batman and the Joker in live action form? Has there been a better back and forth between them?
No. And what you would go back to is you look at the Dark Knight. And you look at the interrogation scene between Batman and Joker. That's all Joker. Batman poses a couple of questions. Why are you doing this? I don't understand. And that kind of stuff. And then you have at the end of the movie when he's hanging upside down, some more, we're destined to do this forever. Batman doesn't say a lot. There's the back and forth that you get in this. And that was really strong.
And the Joker, I'm sorry, for everyone who was like, oh, Jared Leto's Joker shit. Oh, I hate him. He's not the best. Oh, he's the worst.
He wasn't Suicide. That was a shit Joker. Suicide.
I'm sorry.
Right?
All right. Well, it was a divided opinion. That's my outlook. It's a divided.
I didn't mind him. I never minded him as Joker.
Yeah, I didn't find much wrong with him whatsoever. But this one, oh my gosh! Even he just insulted everyone in ways that they didn't even know that it was getting dissed. He called Mira. He called her fish stick, and he called her a smelly flounder. She ain't even bat an eyelid. I'm like, he dissed you. He called you the stinky version of Ariel's friend from The Little Mermaid, and he called you fish sticks, right? Which is fish fingers for those that don't live in England. The disrespect he gave you, right? And then the line when he said, "Oh, I'm happy to discuss with you in any way you want why you sent a boy wonder to do a man's job." I'm gonna be blunt. It was late at night / early in the morning when I saw that, when that line came up. And when he said that line, the line that came out of me was a bit blasphemous. It was, "Oh, Jesus." Because you said something. Oh, you went beyond the chest. You went after the ribs. You put a fingerprint on the heart and was like, "Watch this."
No, so yeah, so hopefully it's something we'll see. We'll never know how it all turns out. But the other scene that we had was right at the end of the movie. We have Martian Manhunter come down to see Batman, Ben Affleck. This was actually originally shot with John Stewart, Green Lantern.
Yeah.
But Warner Brothers Studios are like, "No, you can't use Green Lantern. We've got a new movie coming out. We've got a Green Lantern Corps in development. We don't want it tied to this universe because," and they were not planning on using John Stewart either, I don't think. So,
well, they wanted to use Hal Jordan.
Hal Jordan, exactly, but he wanted the John Stewart version. So so Zack actually, that's the only thing he compromised on, was like, right, okay, I'll use Martian Manhunter. So that whole scene would have actually played out with Green Lantern. Which I would have loved to have seen. I thought that would have been a perfect way to finish it off. And the Martian Manhunter would have just been the scene that we got, in the background. And, that is that kind of the end to that Unite the Seven, which would have been the Lanterns, because they're teased throughout, so to have the Lanterns show up at the end, knowing that Darkseid's come in, I'm going to be there to help you guys out, that would have been fantastic. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Missed opportunity, or,
definitely, man,
did it work with Martian Manhunter?
I understand the logic for Warner Brothers, and this is one of the only things I understand their logic in, is because they didn't have a clear pinpoint at that moment of what Green Lantern they wanted to use, and they called it the Green Lantern Corps or Corps, but that didn't mean that it was going to have all the human Green Lanterns. That didn't mean that it was, that it could have been a lot of different things. We had no idea of storyline other than it was going to have more than one Green Lantern. We had no idea of storyline. We had no idea of plot details. We had no idea of casting choices. By choosing John Stewart, what you're doing is essentially, because even if they're like, "Oh, we don't know if we want it to be connected to the Justice League and all of that," it's gonna be connected to the Justice League, because anyone who's not remember at this time, especially when the film came out in 2017, if the film came out when it was supposed to, and this is what we got, there was no director attached, there was no writer attached, there was no casting attached. It was just a property that we knew existed. Anything that comes out, especially because this is what 9 years after Ryan Reynolds one.
Yeah, Green Lantern.
Oh my god, yeah.
People would automatically believe like, "Oh, why wasn't it Ryan Reynolds if it was John Stewart?" And there was so much that could have potentially have forced WB's hand. It would have forced Warner Brothers' hand. So I get why they were like, "Okay, no, don't use the Green Lantern." That said, it doesn't make a lot of sense when already you've got two Green Lanterns visible in the film. You've got the one who fights originally when Darkseid turns up, and you've got the dead Kilowog lying over the broken Hall of Justice. But that said, those are easily missed things, and so I get their reasoning into why it wasn't Green Lantern, and it does kind of make a bit more sense that it would have been Martian Manhunter, because even though, I mean, when you in the long term, it was a hell of a disrespect that the guy turned up to talk to Lois and he's like, yeah, we need you to go back to work.
You know, just stay out of the battle.
He skipped the whole fight. And I saw the meme of it and I laughed so hard. The meme was that this guy actually sat down for biscuits and tea with Lois, skipped every single fight, and then had the audacity to turn up at the end of the movie and was like, yo, Batman, I got you next time, bro.
It's true. It's true. That's why it didn't feel right. You know, it would have made more sense with Lantern because it's like, you know, I wasn't here. I was out doing something with Darkseid somewhere else potentially, or whatever it is. So maybe a missed opportunity there. But look, there's so much in this movie that you can dissect and additional scenes and stuff like that. But I think Zack did a fantastic job. I think that it's a great achievement for him. I think it's well deserved, and it's fantastic he got the opportunity to deliver it. Now, who knows what's going to happen with the DCEU? I, for one, would restore the Snyderverse. That's my opinion with it. However, you know, who knows what's going to happen? You know, Aquaman 2 is still up in the air. Wonder Woman 84 was just diabolical. That was atrocious. They are going to do another Wonder Woman. Not that it really matters with Justice League because it's set before, but you know, it just doesn't fit now with the rest of it either. For me, it's a complete waste. I know they tried to go for the nostalgia route, but for me, it just didn't work at all. Aquaman 2 supposed to be the Flash movie has been in development hell for ages. They've cast Supergirl now in that movie.
They just lost Michael Keaton.
And that's the thing. Michael Keaton has said he's not too sure now. So it was all supposed to be about Flashpoint and Michael Keaton being part of the DCEU and, you know, maybe taking over the mantle of the Bat in terms of being that older presence, like a Nick Fury type, and seeing him through it all, which would lead to a new one. But the other thing, you know, now he's basically come out and said, I'm not too sure because I'm quite comfortable. I've got a lot of work on. Because of the pandemic, I'm not sure I'm going to be involved. So that scuppers that completely, and that just ruins whatever plans they had for that, even though they announced it at DC Con last year. So that scuppers it all. But another interesting fact I forgot to touch on with Zack Snyder's Justice League is what he confirmed is in his next Justice League movie, Batman sacrifices himself.
Yeah.
Lois. Yeah.
No, the third one.
So he sacrifices himself to save Lois, so Superman doesn't go crazy and get, you know, taken by Darkseid. What happens then is at the end of the movie, it goes to years later, and Lois and Superman's son has grown up. They take him to the Batcave and say, your Uncle Bruce would have been proud for you to do this, and he becomes the new Batman. So that was Zack's. That's from Zack himself. He said it in an interview. So we could probably talk about it for another hour, but we are going to have to wrap it up because probably most people have switched off by this point. So, So for me, final thoughts. Really enjoyed the movie. I thought they worked in a lot of threads. The story made so much more sense. It gave characters depth. It gave them more arcs. Much more respect to the characters, their abilities, their motivations. And you know, I watched it in several parts. I watched it over 2 or 3 sittings and stuff like that, just because of, you know, time factor. I will sit down and watch it all in one go again, because it's something I definitely want to watch again. And yeah, there's part of me that is just grateful that we got it. There's another part of me that's like, I wish I could see, you know, what else was to come, but you just don't know what direction Warner Brothers are going to go, so who knows what's going to happen. Final thoughts, guys.
Thank every deity in every religion everywhere for Zack Snyder.
All right, sums it up. Sasha, Sal, final thoughts?
I was wrong. Okay, I was wrong.
Finish your pie.
I finished my pie.
Right, cool.
Yeah, so was I. I was wrong. I thought it was going to be crap, but it's a decent movie. I liked it.
Right.
Yeah.
Fine. Well, that wraps it up. So again, this is our first official spoiler review. We're going to try and do more of these in some of the tentpole releases, which you should be getting more and more over the next coming weeks. Probably the next big release is going to be Godzilla, Godzilla. So we'll probably do something on that. But yeah, let us know what your thoughts are. Did we go on way too long? I think the podcast is relative to the length of the movie. So I think, you know, if we're going to review a 2-hour movie, it's going to be a lot shorter episode. But well, thank you for sticking with us. You can check out all the Creative Control episodes on all your platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, absolutely everywhere. There's no way you can't find us. And guys, where can people find you on social media if they want to follow your thoughts, opinions, and any news?
You can check me on the Zito's Gang podcast. That's up every week. And you can follow me on Sashman3 on Twitter.
No, go ahead, please.
You can find me here at Creative Control or Zito's Gang, or at Twitter as Sal_F1.
Nope.
Likewise, you can find me on Creative Control. You can find me on the Zito's Gang, or you can follow me on the Neil Coppin and on Instagram.
Yeah, so you can check out the Zito's Gang podcast on all the same platforms. We've got zitosgang.co.uk. You can follow Zito's Gang on Twitter at Zito's Gang. You can follow me on Twitter, Kenan Talks Film. And thank you very much for listening. And until next time.
Peace.
Peace.